Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we're going to be going over another one of the Druid skills, because I'm on a Druid kick lately, and this one is of course Werewolf. Now the Werewolf transformation is a very specific transformation that gives you some nice bonuses. What are these bonuses? Well, specifically it gives you the maximum life, but that maximum life doesn't increase, as you notice. The maximum life actually just kind of comes from Lycanthropy. Now, you do get a 25% base life on Werewolf, even if you don't have a point into Lycanthropy at all. But the main bonuses for Werewolf are the maximum stamina 25%, the attack rating, and the attack speed. Now, as of right now, you can see it has a base duration of only 40 seconds, which is pretty bad. And you can beef that up by beefing up Lycanthropy. Now, Lycanthropy gives a bonus to maximum life, and each point that you put into Lycanthropy will increase the maximum life of your werewolf form, which is definitely very nice. But as you can see, even though I'm putting points into Lycanthropy, I'm not actually increasing my life. And this is because I have to actually downshift and then upshift. This will get me the life back, essentially, from the bonus. And once I have the actual life on my character, and let's go ahead and put some points in to make it dramatic. Now I have 4,202, which is pretty nice. That is not, however, the main bonus of the werewolf form, because this can be gained in the werebear form as well. As you can see, the werebear form also gets the same life bonus, and it's actually a little bit higher. So now we are at 175% and 225% respectively. Lycanthropy is really just to increase the duration and the life, whereas points in Werewolf itself will increase the attack rating and the attack speed, which is really the main reason for the Werewolf. If you're talking about the difference between the Werewolf and the Werebear, what we're talking about is one is an offensive form. The Werewolf is definitely the offensive form between the two, and the Werebear is definitely the defensive form between the two. It has a huge defensive bonus. It has a damage increase, but it's also much slower, and it also comes with an unstoppable ability, which basically makes it so that, you can't be interrupted. So we're talking about offensive versus defensive, really. Now, the Werebear does hit hard, but he also hits very slowly, which is important to note. You can increase the Werebear speed, of course, but when the Werewolf comes with a 73% increased attack speed in its base form, and then you can add on other increases to attack speed, the Werewolf form is always going to be the faster attacking form of the two. Now, the Werewolf form has access to several abilities, and one of them is Feral Rage. Feral Rage gives you a run-walk bonus and a lifesteal bonus, as well as a damage bonus and some attack rating. This one is actually a buildable ability, which you have to attack multiple times, increasing the amount of the effect that you get, much the same way that Frenzy works on the Barbarian. So as you increase the number of stacks, the effect increases, and eventually it gets to the point where it is maxed out. This causes an orb to appear around your character. The Rabies is also something that you can use within the Werewolf form. Rabies is a poison ability, and it spreads between all the monsters nearby. And then Fury is the main ability that most people use within the Werewolf form. It's essentially sort of Zeal. If you've played a Zeal Paladin before, it attacks multiple targets nearby, and it just simply hits a certain number of times. The maximum number of times that it can hit, I believe, is 5. Yes, 5. And increasing it increases the damage and the attack rating, but once you pass the 5 hits, it no longer increases the number of hits that it can do. Werewolf form also has access to these two skills, which do require some pretty significant investment, which is Fire Claws. Fire Claws allows you to do some pretty crazy fire damage, and does have synergies within the elemental tree. And on top of that, we also have Hunger, which allows you to life and mana steal at a reduced damage amount. Now, there are some things that you cannot do within the Werewolf form. It's important to talk about some of these. You cannot cast spells. So for the most part, anything that is considered a spell is not castable, including things like teleport. However, there are some notable exemptions. So Cyclone Armor, which is an extremely good ability, specifically for defensive purposes, because it absorbs large amounts of elemental damage, can be cast within your shapeshifted form. On top of this, Hurricane, which is a spell, can also be cast within your shapeshifted form, which is very nice. This is a recent change, by the way, something that was not always available. So if you want to make a whirlwind, or sorry, a hurricane wolf, I actually have a build for that, and they're actually very fun to play. You basically cast your hurricane, you cast your cyclone armor, and you utilize items that will allow you to proc, your like twister and your tornado effects. Next is the Armageddon skill. So the Armageddon skill always has worked in shapeshifted forms, and if you want to build Armageddon alongside of your shapeshifted wolf, you can of course cast this within your shapeshifted form. Also, any of the summons, I believe they technically count as spells, but they are also all summonable by yourself in the shapeshifted form. So as long as you have shapeshifted forms, anything within the realm of the shapeshifted form is possible. But you'll notice that things like Volcano, Fissure, Molten Boulder, Firestorm, Tornado, Twister, Arctic Blast, Hydras are not capable of being cast. Pretty much anything that's a regular spell is not capable. Hurricane used to not be capable. Cyclone Armor used to not be capable of being cast. Armageddon always has been. But these two spells were made as exemptions because it just made sense. There was no reason why the Druid should have access to the Cyclone Armor and not be able to cast it on itself, which was kind of silly. Another interesting thing to note is that in the past, with this particular form, it used to be the case where the Werewolf and the Werebear form had some interesting attack speed calculation problems. Usually involving requiring a huge amount of attack speed on the weapon and no attack speed on the equipment. This has changed, and it is no longer the case that the weapon is the main source for attack speed. A lot of my older videos from before they made this patch will reference it, but these days the Werewolf can use attack speed equipment that is not on the weapons, and it does in fact affect the shapeshifted form, which is very, very nice. This has opened up a wide array of possibility for weapon choices, by the way, which has made the Werewolf and Werebear forms very interesting. I think that's pretty much it for the Werewolf. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we can go over. One thing that is important with the Werewolf is the 1 HP bug. This has been in the game for a very long time. So basically what this is that when you transform into a werewolf, you have HP, which is considered werewolf HP. When you are in a battle and you are getting beat up by monsters, like for instance, let me just go ahead and get beat up, and they take your HP down to 1. So as soon as you hit 1 HP, you will detransform before you die. This is actually an interesting mechanic that a lot of players have been able to exploit for the purposes of staying alive basically indefinitely. It also has some interesting things with facets. So facets have on-death mechanics, and technically when you hit 1 HP, your character has technically died, and the on-hit mechanics will trigger. As you can see, I transformed into a wolf. They got me down to 1 HP. As soon as I hit 1 HP, I detransformed. I retransformed into a wolf at 1 HP. They hit me again, and then I detransformed back into a wolf. Now, what this is this is basically the game not knowing the difference between the logic of death and your werewolf's death. So when your werewolf dies, you detransform into a human, and then when you die, then you actually die. So when your druid form is actually dead, that's when you really die. Let me go ahead and do a reset here real quick. Of course, right in the middle of battle. In the middle, actually, before I make a second body, Let's exit and go back. I don't want to lose all my equipment. Not that I didn't just cheat it all in for testing purposes, but that doesn't matter. Okay, just because I cheated it all in doesn't mean it doesn't. There we go.
I can't carry anymore.
So, werewolf form is definitely a very fun form that makes you attack faster and gives you a pretty nice bonus to your attack rating. However, there are some limitations to the werewolf form, and as we discussed, you're not able to cast certain spells within the werewolf form. The werewolf form also has its own attack speed calculations. On top of that, it's also important to note that the werewolf form has what I would like to call the best faster hit recovery in the game. It's very difficult to explain just how good the wolf's faster hit recovery is, but it is actually so good that blocking is actually a terrible idea on a werewolf, specifically because the blocking rate that the werewolf has is awful, and his faster hit recovery is so good that every time you block, it's going to be a slowdown over what you could potentially have with your faster hit recovery. It's actually kind of weird just how amazing faster hit recovery is on the wolf. Let me pull up the faster hit recovery breakpoints real quick. So to give you guys an example, the blocking rate on the Druid in his wolf form at 0% faster blocking is 9 frames. The faster hit recovery breakpoint for the Druid in his wolf form at 0% faster recovery is 7 frames. Now, there are very few ways that you can get faster blocking, and most of the time you will not get faster blocking, actually. So the issue is that even with, say, 30% faster blocking, the highest you can get that is pretty much around 6 frames. However, the Druid's faster hit recovery in the wolf form, with a meager 86% faster hit recovery, goes to 3 frames, which is actually insane. So getting 86% faster recovery on your werewolf will make you into a faster hit recovery god, basically, where nothing, for the most part, will stun or stagger you, using the faster hit recovery stun lock situation. And to show you just how dramatic it is comparatively to a class that does not have good faster hit recovery, the Sorceress, which is one of the worst faster hit recovery breakpoint characters in the game, has a frame faster hit recovery of 15 at 0. And even if the Sorceress were to obtain 86% faster recovery, the same as the Werewolf, at 3 frames, she can only basically get 7 frame faster hit recovery, which means that the Werewolf is still 2 times faster, actually more than 2 times faster in recovery than the Sorceress at her best. And this is why generally the Werewolf form is just a terrible form to use the shield on, because not only is the faster hit recovery just so good on the Werewolf, that the shield actually just kind of slows things down and makes it worse. And it's also very difficult to get faster hit recovery breakpoints, or faster blocking breakpoints, on any character besides a Paladin. Most characters don't really have access to faster blocking. On top of this, there's also another reason why you should probably not use a shield with this particular form. And I know it took me 14 minutes to say this because I'm an idiot, but the shapeshifted werewolf form gets insane attack speed increases for pretty much all two-handed weapons. So let me see if I can find a way to kind of like dramatically show this off. Let's see here. So here we have a Hellplague Longsword, which is a fast attack speed weapon. If I were to take a two-handed weapon, which is something like the Bone Snap Maul on Kubis here. The Bone Snap Maul is a weapon that's a fast attack speed weapon on me. However, if I take this and I throw this in the shared stash, and I go over to, let's say, a sorceress, and I take a look at this same Bone Snap Maul on my sorceress, the sorceress sees normal attack speed. Every single two-handed weapon, for the most part, with, I think, a couple exceptions, gets a huge increase in attack speed when you put it on a druid. And this means that it's almost always better to use a two-handed weapon for druids, specifically just because of that innate attack speed increase, which means that these heavy, ridiculous weapons that do large amounts of damage swing incredibly fast when in the hands of a shapeshifted druid. And as you play through the game and as you actually like experience this for yourself, if you test around with one-handed and two-handed weapons, more often than not, you will notice that the two-handed weapons are just almost always faster than the one-handed variants on this particular class. I think that covers pretty much everything for the werewolf form. The next video will probably be on Feral Rage. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and keep watching.